When did people become so emotionally crippled that truth and honesty became offensive? I mean, I've been sitting here the last couple days, giving this a lot of thought, but I probably shouldn't have, because for the most part, I believe it's a lot of shit and nonsense and doesn't require a lot of effort on anybody's part to even give it much consideration, because it's pointless. But when it comes down to it, when did this divide happen? I mean, can't even open a door for anybody anymore without somebody getting offended. I mean, I can hold the door for people, and if they're over 40, they're my age and up, absolutely, they say thank you and they come on through. And if they're heading out just before you, they hold that door a little bit so it doesn't swing on you. It's not a problem. I mean, you'll get some people, if they're in a scooter or wheelchair or on crutches and it's something they've always had to deal with their whole life, they'll be like, no thanks, I got it, I've been doing it for 30 years, 40 years. And they'll be like, yeah, okay, no problem. And you let them, because you don't step forward and do it just because you think all of a sudden that somebody in a wheelchair or on crutches is somehow incapable of doing things for themselves. But with that, when did it become that you can't do these things anymore? That everybody is so emotionally damaged? Like, it's just crazy. I don't understand where this came from. Like, what the hell happened? What drove it in? And it's mostly now 30 and under. Okay. And how the hell did they get so convinced that everything is damaging and abusive and offensive and everything needs to be destroyed, and they don't learn anything anymore? I mean, they don't learn history. They don't learn nothing. I mean, I can sit here, my own daughter, she's graduated now and stuff, and we sit there and we can go through things and we can talk about history. We can read history. We can look at history books. You could even open an encyclopedia and read a thing from history, and she'll go, well, they never taught us that in school. They didn't teach us anything in school. Hell, they used to teach us to be an adult. Okay. They don't have that anymore. I mean, you used to have like civics classes, home economics classes, which was more than just sewing, but it taught you how to do basic mending of your own clothes, how to cook basic foods, how to manage money and pay bills, which nobody pays attention to anymore. I mean, one of the things I press so hard on my own kid is good financial money habits. No matter what you make, always stick 10% away in savings. I mean, as it is now, no matter how tight things are, if she always put 10% away, by the time she wanted to retire at, say, even 55, she would have $1.5–2 million in savings, not to mention whatever pension she'd get from work and that, because she's going into nursing, and around here nurses get good pensions if you do the whole 30–40 years. My aunt was 45–50 years she was a nurse. She's a damn good pension. So what happened? When did it become that we weren't able to deal with basic problems anymore, or social problems? I mean, you got all this whole idea now. I didn't want to get into this, but I think today I have to. You got everybody under 30 wanting to be this great big social justice warrior and fighting for the cause and blame the rich. And that's not the way it works. I mean, you can say all these things all you want, but it doesn't happen that way. Okay. I mean, if you have a really valuable skill, you're in demand and you can charge a lot of money. Like, people want to blame the rich for things, but at the same time, these same people don't want to pay for actual skill and knowledge and talent when the time comes and they need it. They want to come out and head into the workforce themselves and make top dollar without having any experience or any real world knowledge in what it is they're doing. They take theory in school, but that's just not the same. I worked for a while for one major multinational company in the middle management. I went from location to location and we helped fix problems. Okay. Usually it was if we had to come in and fix staffing issues or things were being managed badly, we would come in and we would essentially gut the staff and start over, because it's what you do. However, we had a policy of pretty much always promoting people into mid-management and upper management and into even all the way up into the board through promotion from within, starting from the very bottom. For someone that was sweeping floors or washing dishes in one of our restaurants or doing laundry in one of our hotels, we promoted from within usually, because you would take people that had a basic business degree and they'd get their hotel management course and all that crap, and they would come in, and the first thing you would have to do is undo everything they were taught, because what they learned had nothing to do with how the business actually worked, other than learning some of the computer systems if they were in a course that actually taught them the different computer systems that were used in operating it, because then that took a couple weeks off the learning curve. But normally we promoted from within. And that's how I went where I was. I took a job at the very, very bottom because at the time I didn't have a job, and I had a friend that worked for the company, and I said, hey, can you get me in? And he said, yeah, we can get you in one of our restaurants, but you're going to have to wash dishes. It's the only thing available. And I said, I don't care. It's a job. I got bills. I'll take it. Within a year, I was running places. And in a year and a half, I was on the management team that went from location to location all over the country fixing problems, which people didn't like us showing up, because if we showed up, it meant somebody was getting fired. But people weren't quite as weak at that time. We're talking 05 to 09. It was a little different. It was mostly Xers in there and stuff, some of the youngest millennials, and they didn't take it so bad. However, now you get to all this nonsense now, and it blows my mind that people can't deal with these things. They are so soft and their skin is so thin. They can't take criticism. You have to heap praise all the time, but nobody can take criticism. I mean, I go to a place and I go for another job, and I'm like, you gonna give me shit? Give it to me. I'm a big boy. I got broad shoulders. I can take the criticism. It's the same as this. I get called crap and recently hateful and stuff like that. And I'm not hateful. I don't hate anybody in general. As a general rule, I don't hate. What's the point? It just burns you up inside. I don't hate. I get annoyed. I get pissed off. I get fed up with the bullshit I see everywhere, but I don't hate. Do I sit around thinking sometimes you should have a great big button, you just hit reset and you just start this planet over? Hell yeah, I'd push that button. Because the way the world is today, I pretty much think mankind has ran its course. We had our time, we screwed up, and it's time to get out of the way and see what else develops around here. Because as it is, man, the Lord ain't coming down fast enough. When you get back to the people being too overly sensitive and emotional about everything, you have to wonder what brought it on. Like, did it start where they were taught this? It had to have been taught. It's not something that just developed internally, and it's not genetic that people all of a sudden became offended by everything. They were taught to be offended. And I mean, this is generally a tactic done by groups or organizations that want to degrade a society enough that they can come in and take control and come in with a new system, because everybody is so upset and mad at the current one. You can come in with a new one and everyone says, yeah, please. And you install a new one. And lo and behold, it's not what people ever wanted in the end, but it's too late. And you're now subjects of some new ruling class that hates you and treats you like crap because they no longer need you out in the street being angry for them. Now, I know someone's going to call me a nut and a conspiracy theorist or anything, but that's not the case. It's a fact. Just look through history on how things happened. It's the same now with watching the country crumble. It's the same thing. What is happening now has happened with every single empire when they were in decline. Okay, the pieces on the board are shifting. The power base and where it is shifting. It just seems really odd because we're in a position to witness it. And since nobody pays attention anymore to history or understands it, we just don't seem to get what's going on and where we're at. We ignore it. We pretend it's not really there. It's not happening. But guess what? It is. You can't avoid it. And a lot of it, I think, has been brought about because of the fact that people are so weak emotionally and are so caught up in groupthink. People aren't taught to think for themselves anymore. They're just told to follow in line, because if you don't follow in line, we're going to destroy you. I mean, I've said before that I don't really pay attention to the news because there's no news on the news. It doesn't matter what happens, and you watch any news network anywhere in the world and they tell that story, and then over the next 72 hours it changes a dozen times, and then about 6 months down the road the actual truth behind it comes out. So why would you watch it then? Because they don't just give fact about what took place at that time. They all push a very specific narrative based on what kind of agenda they have. That's why I don't follow the news. It's not that I'm not aware of what's on the news. I don't follow it. And when I say I don't know what's going on in the world anymore, it's not that I don't know what's going on as in what's happening in the countries and the different wars and what countries are taking pot shots at each other and where wars are going. Oh, I'm all caught up on that. Believe me. I mean, when I'm home and I get on here and I do this, and I got a few people, I watch some of them large channels and that on YouTube themselves, and I watch them, and half of it I sit there and watch and I'm like, man, do they really believe what they're saying? Do they even understand truly what they're talking about? They all push a specific narrative, even then, that say they're completely independent. Even I do. You can't avoid the fact. All right? Even I do. When I sit there and I go down and I come down on the millennials and I come down on Gen Z, then yeah, I'm pushing a narrative too. That Gen X is going to get in here, we're coming in, we're going to take over, and we're going to fix things. Because for the first time ever now, we are starting to outnumber boomers in the workplace. But in the end, we still only make up 30% of the workforce. And we're getting in there so late, we're going to start rolling out anyway, and we're immediately going to start diminishing in numbers. So do we have time to make these corrections and fix them? I don't know. And I do become fearful that the younger people will not get away from this thinking that they have currently going on when they come in, and they will still institute that and have no idea that it doesn't work. I mean, they follow stuff on a whim, but nobody reads the fine print. You know, it's like signing a contract when you jump in behind a movement or a revolutionary process. You better read the fine print, because you get caught with one slogan, but do you really read the fine print at what the end game is when this comes about? No. Anyway, I could go on a long time, but I have a feeling that nobody wants to sit here and listen to this for 2-3 hours. But I tell you, I'm getting ready. I'm looking at, if not this Saturday, the next Saturday. I will let that be known in a couple days. Looking here, things have been going well. I'd like to post way more often. And because it's going good, there seems to be steady growth going on the channel. I thank you guys. You're coming in, you subscribe, you're liking the videos, you're engaging in conversation in the comments. That's the main one I want to see. Conversation happening. I'm about spark conversation, because this here, I'll get an added. This would be like a PS section to the video, right? When did it become that you can't have a conversation or an honest discussion with people anymore? Why is it that two opposing viewpoints can no longer sit down and have an actual discussion? Everybody gets so mad and upset, and they're like, I can't be in a room with a person that thinks that way. Nothing ever gets accomplished if you're not going to talk. And when people don't talk, fighting happens. And that is not good for anybody, ever. Because no matter what happens, nobody actually wins. One side might come out on top, but nobody wins. Because the side that comes out on top, unless they completely destroyed the other and annihilate them and have nobody left to say what they did, it's going to bleed back in, and it's going to come back, and it's going to bite you. You need actual conversation, real discussions with people again. No more of this, everybody is different and separate and has to have their own thing. What happened to doing things as a society and a group and truly being blended and diverse and everybody together as one? And now it's everybody must be separate. I just don't get it anymore. It's like we're walking backwards. I don't even realize it. That's the thing. Anyway, this is Drac saying until next time, peace out, everybody.